This conference will now be recorded.
And present without background noise. So we'll go ahead and call this work session to order. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there is generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. We'll start the meeting with board communications, and let's start with Commissioner Bangs.
Good evening, everyone. Am I on? Sorry. Okay. It's been kind of a busy week for me. I should say. Just went to my first. I enjoyed seeing some old faces that are really nice. That was enjoyable. Just kind of trying to call each of my positions that I have for committee.
Commissioner Bangs, we're losing you. You might need to call in. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, it was a busy day at AOC on Monday. Legislative session is picking up. AOC is very active, and I've been going to Governance and Finance Committee. Instead of going to Transportation and Community Development, I went into Public Safety. I'm happy to turn that over to Commissioner Toyoka when he's ready to join that committee. A lot of good information there. I wasn't able to go to Natural Resources. A lot of good information coming out of that committee as well. Legislative Committee, Board of Directors, looking at how does AOC go forward to be not just a stakeholder with the state, but a valued partner, because there is that continuing push that we see in many areas to do unfunded mandates or to somehow miss the role of the counties in informing and executing state policies. So AOC is a good thing to do. I've got a lot of constituent concern, a lot of conversation about short-term rentals, a lot of conversation about COVID. The beat goes on. I think the county manager said something about this COVID was a double marathon. I don't even know if we know the factors of how many kinds of marathons this is going to be, but I think everyone I know is tired, and being kind to each other is the daily challenge and the daily imperative. That's enough for now, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I see we got Commissioner Bangs back. Do you want to continue your comments?
I have no idea where I left off. I was talking to myself for a while. No, that's good for now. I'm just telling my kids they can't play Netflix right now because, you know, mommy can't get kicked off her meeting anymore. So.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Bangs. Commissioner Toyoka.
Here you go. Hello, everyone. Been a wonderful week. Had meetings for the Human Services Advisory Council as well as the Public Safety Coordinating Council. Both of those are, a lot of information and actually a lot going on both instances. With Human Services Advisory, with COVID, there's a lot of ancillary services that are required, that are amped up and getting some extra funding during this time. Some of the statistics that are shared were alarming, especially when you're looking at the youth of our county. Happily, our last Seaside School District has a plan to go back to school, and they have some sports. So I see that as a wonderful outlet for the mental health and physical health of a lot of the youth in our county that they're getting back to school. The Public Safety Coordinating Council, some good information on not only the the new jail, but mostly about adults in custody and how we're dealing with them and what happens to them through the process, and once they're out, the how many reoffend and how many are, how successful the programs are that they don't reoffending in 3 years. So very interesting. And like Commissioner Thompson, I'm getting lots of correspondence on the short-term rental. So I know there's going to be a lot of discussion on that from both sides of the spectrum. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tuoka. Commissioner Webb. There you go.
I'm sorry. I am, it's not my dog barking in the background. It's just her being extremely annoying and demanding right now. So I really don't have anything to report, except that yesterday we had Commissioner Toyoka and I had a wonderful meeting with the folks who have been hired to assist us in the relocation of the Public Works Department facility. And it was a great meeting there. It was very technical in terms of physical demands, etc. But it was very interesting. A lot of issues raised beyond Public Works. And I think one of the themes throughout this whole process is going to be that we really do need to be taking a pretty aggressive look into the future at our physical plant needs in virtually all of the services that we provide. So this will be a good exercise and hopefully a good learning exercise in how to do that. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. And I'm so glad that you and Commissioner Toyoka are liaisons to that task force. Important work, and you're both the two commissioners to do it. I'll just real briefly say I attended the AOC on Monday to present our letter in support of the SBDC. I think it was received well. Certainly others understand that in a recovery, in a period of economic recovery, we need all the tools at our disposal that we can get, and SBDC has been just so instrumental in getting help to people that need it and assistance to businesses that need it in our community throughout this 11 months. So I was very pleased to be able to speak to the group on that. I also had my first meeting with the governor as chair of the county commission. The 36 county commissioner chairs were on a call today from 10:30 to 11. It gave me a perspective. We are not alone. We're all struggling with the same exact issues. I can't remember if it was Douglas County or one of the counties that had one case count over the high risk category, and they were making the same arguments that we were making, that they were placed unfairly into the extreme high risk, and this was going to be detrimental to their restaurants. And they have very few restaurants, but that they're on the brink of collapse and going out of business. We're in the same boat with regards to getting vaccines. People aren't getting vaccines fast enough, and everybody wants them. The demand exceeds the supply. But it was enlightening, and I do appreciate being a part of that group. It meets quarterly, so I don't think we meet again till April, but it's helpful, or April or May, but it's helpful to hear from the other county commissioners. And certainly my emphasis has been that we have a great system in place to distribute the vaccines. I just came away from our clinic this evening that was out at the fairgrounds. 415 people are going to get vaccinated with second doses, so they'll be fully vaccinated tonight. The county and the hospitals and all of the community health partners are working very well together. And I just can't say enough about the volunteers that are coming night after night to help out with these events. It's just, it's really inspiring. And again, thank you to all of our county health department employees and to the other volunteers that are working that event this evening. And it's very inspiring. And then I also got my orientation into CREST today. So I met with Denise Laughlin virtually and appreciated her sharing information about all the projects and activities of CREST. And I look forward to our meeting in April. That's all I got. Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
I just wanted to highlight Commissioner Webb. I was on the road yesterday and listening to a clip from her interview with Jacob Lewin. She did us proud. I mean, you remember Jacob used to be in the Portland radio market, KMUN volunteer and local Astoria resident now. And Commissioner Webb was clear and strong and articulate and presented the county very well. So kudos to her and to Jacob Lewin and KMUN.
That's great. So did they post those? Did they leave those up so I can access it? Because I didn't catch it, so I'll look forward to. I assume that they post those on KMUN. We'll find out. But anyway, I'm glad to hear that. Do we have any other items from the commission? If not, we'll move on to the discussion of the formal agenda. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the agenda this evening? Any questions? Okay. If we don't have any questions about the agenda, we'll go ahead into our first topic, which is the enterprise zone exemption overview and new applications. And we've got 45 minutes set aside for this. We have a number of folks that have joined us. I'll turn this over to our county manager, Don Boone.
Thank you, Chair Quayla, members of the board, and thanks for everybody else who's joining us this evening. I'm going to actually have Kevin Leahy take over from here, and he'll give an overview of the enterprise zone program, and then also a little bit about the two applications that we'll be learning more about tonight.
Thank you. Okay, Kevin.
Thank you, Chair Quayla. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm just getting kind of navigating here with this. I do a lot of Zoom calls, so I'm just navigating. Thank you, Teresa, for sharing the screen. I just wanted to get it down to, can everybody see that screen okay? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So I wanted to, again, thank you for this opportunity as the enterprise zone manager. Also, congratulations to the new commissioners and counselors, and welcome to the mayors and the counselors and commission members that have worked with the enterprise zone before. We did this about a year and about a half ago at this point with Fort George in the Astoria Council chambers. And it's good to have this opportunity. Thank you, Don Boone, and thank you, commissioners, for letting us have this time this evening. So the way the process is going to work is I am going to give an overview of the enterprise zones, what it means, what it is. Melanie Olson from Business Oregon is on the call with myself this evening to answer any questions from her perspective. We also have Suzanne Johnson and Chris Leader, a tax assessor and lead appraiser, to answer questions. And of course, from my perspective, and I think all of ours, most exciting are our employers who are prepared this evening to share with everyone their projects. And we have Dave Kronig and Luke Colvin and Andrew Bornstein from Bowie Beer, and Tom Wortman from the Schooler Company, the fish meal plant that'll be constructed out at the airport here. So let's get into it again here. Teresa, I'm trying to, let me see if I can advance.
What can I help with? Oh, you're muted, Kevin.
I'm not used to that, right?
There you go.
I want to get the full screen, not my slide deck. That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, go up to slideshow on the orange bar in the middle,
Yes.
about in the middle, so, where it says slideshow, and then click from beginning on the left there. Is that what you
Great.
wanted?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
So again, I'll get right into it here. So the standard enterprise zones, let me see if I can close. I also want to close the window here, Teresa, so I'm looking at my screen and not everybody else here. How do I do that? Well, I'll talk through this. This will be fine. So enterprise zones were formed in 1986. I'm not going to read all this information, but it is to increase employment opportunities and local competitiveness. And the zones offer tax relief on new private capital in exchange for investing and hiring in the enterprise zone. So qualifying businesses receive exemptions from local property taxes for new plant and equipment for 3 years, but up to 5 years in the standard program. And that's what we're going to be discussing this evening. Both employers are submitting their application for the 5-year program. We have 4 sponsors. We're kind of unique here in Clatsop County. We have 4 sponsors with the Clatsop County, the City of Astoria, City of Warrington, and Port of Astoria, the 4 partners. So we all work very collaboratively here in the county, always have, and this is an example of it. And so the process is, I'll give the overview, and then I do have set meetings set up with all the commissions and councils starting in a couple weeks after this. This is an information session, and then we'll get into the actual resolution and the agreement the night of the actual meetings that I will be attending, along with Melanie Olson and the representatives from the company. So please feel free to ask any questions you have throughout here. Again, the enterprise zones in Oregon, there's currently 73 enterprise zones across Oregon, 56 rural and 17 urban. And again, Cedar is Clatsop County's zone manager, proud to serve as the manager. So business eligibility. Eligible businesses, manufacturers, processors, shippers. Again, you can read it here. When we formed the enterprise zone in, I believe it was 2015, and the City of Astoria joined in 2018. And the City of Astoria does not currently allow hotel or resorts, but the other sponsors, if there is a project, which is not what we're discussing tonight, obviously, that would be a consideration for that individual sponsor. So qualified property, all non-vehicular, non-inventory business properties assessed for taxation, new building structures, structural modifications, additions, newly installed machinery located in the zone qualify for the zone exemption. And by the way, at the end of this presentation with myself and with the employers, with the companies, we're going to have Suzanne and Chris will be showing everybody visually what it means in terms of the tax exemptions, what the taxes would be these companies would pay existing, and what they will be exempted from on if their enterprise zone applications are accepted. So land, non-inventory supplies, etc., do not qualify. Criteria, again, the basic 3-year enterprise zone, self-explanatory there. You have to increase full-time permanent employment of the firm inside the enterprise zone for the greater of 1 job or 10%. No concurrent job losses. This is all growth we're talking about here. Maintaining the minimum employment, and enter into a first source agreement with local job training providers. What does that mean? That means these companies will work with the Oregon Employment Department. I believe they already have. They already have been in some cases, like Bowie, for example, a long-term employer here in Astoria in the Clatsop County area. But that is a first source agreement with the Oregon Employment Department. So Oregon enterprise zones intended to create new jobs. So there's the standard exemption, and that again I was referring to in terms of the standard exemption, which is a 3-year program. And again, I'm happy to. I know the media has been asking for copies of this. I sent Teresa Durst a copy earlier today, and happy to also email it out after this meeting, or I'm sure it's probably best coming officially from the county. So to maintain the increased employment for each assessment, this is again the base. persons working full-time, 32 hours per week, permanent year-round positions, employees working most anywhere inside the enterprise zone. When an enterprise zone expires, those businesses that are already qualified will continue to receive the exemption until their qualified term expires. Our Clatsop County enterprise zone is sunsetting in 2025, but we have full anticipation we will be renewing that, working all together on that. The extended enterprise zone, which again we're talking about this evening, this above criteria, they must receive local approval. That's the 4 zone sponsors. The average of the new employer's compensation needs to be at least 130% of the county average wage. The wages must be equal to or equal than the current county average wage, and all other prior requirements that I just referred to on the zone apply. I wanted to have in here, even though the two companies are not requesting the long-term rural enterprise zone exemption, I just want to have it here for reference. This is what we worked on before George. Some of the, again, mayors, councilors, commissioners, etc. will remember this. And this is up to 15 years. It does require, again, I'm not going to go through it because we're not really going to be discussing this in detail, but it's for reference and where the incentives apply. And you have to, the employer, the company needs to invest at least $12.5 million, depending on in our county in that investment. And both of these projects are large with huge potential, but not at the $12.5 million benchmark here. So again, I'm just gonna keep going through here because we'll get to the companies here next. Talks about 35 full-time employees, the taxable wage, etc. That's what we're working on with Fort George. And I believe, and again, the Board of Commissioners and the City Council, in this case, it'll be the City of Warrington, will do for the 5-year, specify the resolution approving the property tax exemption on the 5-year being requested this evening. So the bottom line here is, as the Economic Development Executive Director for Clatsop County for the last 10 years, this is something that we put in our toolkit. We always talk about how can we be competitive. And we know that most of our growth in Clatsop County comes from within. It's business expansion and business retention. So it's so exciting to have a local homegrown business in Bowie Beer doing this major expansion, and to have the Schooler Company coming as a new member of our economic family here in Clatsop County. I'm happy to answer any questions. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. And unless there's further questions for myself, I will turn it over to Dave Kronig from Bowie Beer. Thank you.
Yeah,
and David, just come advance the screen.
Sounds good. I'm happy to get rolling. Well, first, thank you, Kevin, for the introduction, and yours and Chris's teams and working with us to get this put together. And appreciate everyone here's time and learning about our project and considering us for this opportunity. Probably before I dive in, did just want to say I kind of want to acknowledge it has been a tough year for everybody, and it's been hard over the last year to not just focus on the day-to-day and getting through every day. So it's nice to take a little break from that and be able to kind of look forward and have the opportunity to focus on the future and what's ahead for our company and our county as a whole. So yeah, you can go ahead. Just to touch base and give you guys, I think a lot of people are probably familiar with us to some extent. You can move forward, Kevin.
Yes, I do.
River Barrel Brewing is our company name, and we are Bowie Beer and Powerhouse Distilling is the brands. Both founded in 2013, merged in 2019 into one company with a lot of synergies and a lot of opportunity to grow together. Currently, after all the kind of aftermath of the pandemic, we sit at about 65 FTE employees. That's across the entire company in all areas. Our two primary businesses are split into two main categories. That's the wholesale craft beverage manufacturing. So we make beer and spirits, and we distribute those outside our area. And I'd say in general, about 95% of everything we make on site goes outside the county for sales. And then if you've been down to the Riverwalk or over to the backside of the Liberty, in Pilot House's case, the on-site retail operations, the other piece of the business, that's where people are coming into our facilities in the county, whether it's the restaurant or the tasting room. So what we're talking about tonight is that first one, and that's the future expansion that's focusing on manufacturing. So go ahead forward. So I just wanted to, I think Kevin and Chris are going to dive into a little bit more of the numbers, so I wanted to just kind of talk into what all these expansions look like. There's an article in the paper and some other things, but it can be a little confusing about what's where and how we're doing it. So to kind of talk through that a little bit, one thing that we're focused on and has, been part of our story, but is also, I think, important for our story specifically, is that working waterfront. And really, while, we aren't processing fish in these old fish factories, there's still manufacturing happening, there's forklifts running around, there's actual work being done on the waterfront, which I think is an important thing. So if you look, the large building at the top is currently where the restaurant and brewery are, the existing brewery and restaurant. We've, at this point, close to maxing out that space, and so had started looking around for future expansion opportunities. So we purchased the building in the southeast of that map, and that's where we're going to be building out the future distillery and tasting room. So Pilot House will move out of the Liberty in the future, just need more space for all the production equipment. And then similarly, as we look to expand the brewery to a greater reach, the building to the south on Astor is going to get remodeled to be able to house new equipment in that building as well. So that's kind of the general layout. I'll talk a little bit about the individual businesses here too. Go ahead, Kevin. On the buoy side specifically, as you can probably imagine from those pictures, that's the existing facility up top, and the picture down below is the building on Astor. If you can see where it says Bowie Beer Company across the top, that section of the building is what's getting popped up in height so that we're able to accommodate the new equipment. But essentially, as I was just saying, we're at capacity, reached it towards the end of 2019 and then a full year in 2020. Weren't able to make any more beer, although our orders were and demand was greater than that. And so in trying to find more space that's usable for production, moving into that second facility is where we're going to move all our brewing and fermentation capacity. So the building on the bottom will be where we start the process. And then the two buildings will get connected with a pipe bridge that we're working with the city of Astoria on, and that will transfer product and utilities into the existing building, which is where our lagering, which we're somewhat known for, our cellaring, and our new packaging lines will be housed in that new building. So you'll still be able to be in the restaurant and see kind of the manufacturing go on, and there'll be even more kind of working waterfront with those buildings being tied together and operations going between them. As well, I should point out on that too, I've been working extensively with the city of Astoria on wastewater with help from Kevin and Melanie as well. And so there will be a wastewater treatment plant installed, and that pipe bridge will help connect all those wastewater needs into one centralized location for pre-treatment before discharging to the city. And that's part of this expansion as well. On the Pilot House side, this is kind of the view looking west towards the bridge. You can see kind of the existing buoy building there off to the right. And so what's now currently a little bit of a disheveled looking white warehouse. This is kind of a mock-up of what the intention is. So again, tying the waterfront into some of the industry with views in and seeing what's going on there. But it'll be all new equipment for the distillery to grow the current brands it has and have a reach that geographically is probably well beyond what the brewery is intending to do, just with the nature of that business. So again, sending more products out to bring dollars back. Some of the things we're excited about equipment-wise, there's going to be a new 5,000 liter pot still. Currently, that's about 1,300 gallons, and currently we're working with a 250 gallon still, so quite a significant capacity expansion there, along with the associated fermentation, bottling, canning equipment that's needed. And again, there will be pipe bridges connecting this building as well to help handle with our wastewater treatment, as I mentioned a minute ago. Go ahead, Kevin. And so generally, before they get into, Kevin and Chris get more into the numbers, here's just general overview there. Our project, as I mentioned, involves both renovation of existing buildings on the waterfront that are in need of it, number one, and also need some people to house them and do things in them, as well as a substantial amount of new equipment to reach capacity demand. We're working with Rickenbach Construction as we always have, and most of our subcontractors are local here, so I'm familiar with most of those companies. Overall, the total scope of this project is slightly over $8 million in construction and new equipment. We're expecting, maybe I should say hoping, but expecting that everything's going to be operational by the end of 2021. So on the move quick here. And we're looking at around 15 to 20 new people, not counting the restaurant operations, which are kind of outside of that, but this will all be in areas of brewing, distilling, packaging, the associated admin, accounting, finance, warehousing. So, you know, it's, as Kevin said, it's a substantial step forward for us, putting a lot of time and funding and energy into this. And so it's exciting to be able to have the support of all these different organizations here to help move Clatsop County forward. So happy to answer any questions if there are any, if that's the time now, Kevin, or
yes,
later.
Yes, this is the time.
I see Commissioner Thompson has her hand up. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. What an awesome project. I just have to say something as a mom. You got a slide there of the mock-up, and I think you want to have bicycle helmets on both the bicycle rider and on the child who's a passenger, because that just caught my mom eye on that safety issue, because I don't think you want to advertise lack of bicycle safety with this great project. That's just a minor point, but it mattered to me. The second point is the reason we do these projects is because we deferred taxation to give you a chance to build your business so that you can be stronger. Do you have any anticipated revenue stream for us that will help us justify our confidence in you and giving you this space to create this viable business? Help us see the public benefit down the line in terms of increased tax revenue we're going to see, if you can do that.
Certainly. And I think a couple ways to look at that. A big point is the additional employment and economic development we'll be seeing here. I think what the tax benefits allow us to do is to dive head into this and really not try to limp along. It gives us extra funding to hire more people from the start and grow a little bit more quickly than we may otherwise be able to with having to build in. As in terms of revenue, we're looking at probably tripling our revenue over the next 5 years is one of the targets there. And sorry, I thought I heard someone say something. So I think from that standpoint, that's really where the economic benefit comes for the county, and that increased staffing. And in the future, once the short exemption period's over, the $8 million in equipment and property renovations are going to be on the tax roll.
And Commissioner Thompson, you mentioned with this fast-growing sector, and Bowie has been a key part of that, and being part of the Advanced Astoria work that we did years ago, this fermentation cluster was designated as a key growth clean industry for our area. And we also know what Bowie, Fort George, Pelican, and others have done, what it's meant for our economy with the other businesses that are supported and grow around it.
I absolutely agree with you and support it. I'm just looking to reassure and give confidence to taxpayers who may be concerned about the impact on the county's budget by this short period of forgiveness.
Very much so. Chris Leader will give those updates later, but yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Any other questions? Mayor Balanceder.
I'm looking at your plans that you have for the expansion, and while exciting, I know you were also talking about separate from the enterprise zone, sort of like on the water hotel. I'm just trying to figure out what are going to be the traffic impacts from all this expansion plus the hotel increase to Highway 30 and the intersections there, and what is that going to do for livability of people trying to get to Napa, Warrenton, and Warrenton to Napa? It's bad enough as it is in summer, and I'm just trying to figure out where's the routing going to be and what's the anticipated traffic impacts of allowing it.
I might defer to people who probably understand the traffic a little bit better. We've looked at the micro view of that in terms of working with the city of Astoria on our side of the permits. I do want to be clear, the hotel is a separate project and ownership structure. But on the micro level, I can tell you in the middle of summer, non-pandemic, the Bowie restaurant would see upwards of 1,500 people a day. And would be at capacity. And so I think that amount of people is already here. As far as this manufacturing piece of things, while there are, potentially another 15 to 20 people that we're hiring on our side of things, this expansion, the $8 million investment, isn't a public-facing type of expansion. It's manufacturing. And so there'll be some more associated trips with trucking and deliveries and that kind of thing, but not really driving more tourist business with this piece of the expansion.
So your tasting room on the distillery side is not going to create additional impacts?
Well, we're moving the tasting room that exists on the backside of the Liberty currently to the waterfront there.
Chair Quayla, can I ask a question?
Yeah, Commissioner Webb.
David, my biggest question is what kinds of folks are you going to be adding? You were talking about, to start off, plus 15 FTEs. What are these people's, what kind of skills do they need to have? Okay.
Sorry if I cut you off, if you had more to that.
No.
Great question. I think, one thing we are very proud of in our short time, in addition to, the liquid we make and the love of the brand that spans throughout Oregon and into Washington already, is the people and the culture that we've created and been able to attract, which I think has been a combination of some people from the outside that have moved here to join the team, but by and large, mostly from the county to begin with, or, our neighboring towns. In terms of additional staff, our brew team's a good example of that. We have, I'd say half of our brew team has moved here from another brewery, whether in the state or states away. And half of it had no experience at all and were working at bakeries in the county or completely unrelated jobs and wanted to get into craft beer. And so we've been able to kind of merge those two and make sure we have the talent and the skill levels needed to grow, but also provide opportunities that, someone might not have had there not been a job opening. Another thing we're excited about that, Kevin knows a lot about is we've been partnering with the college and Kevin and Fort George and some of the other producers in town to look at potential training opportunities in conjunction potentially with Oregon State, but at the community college level, so we can get some kind of job skill training so that there is a better pool for the growing fermentation cluster in the county. So opportunities like that are exciting. And then, of course, there's jobs that fall in line with any business on some of the administration, accounting, finance roles.
Good. Thank you. That's very exciting. I'm our representative to the Workforce Development Multi-County Group, and we're always looking for things that are different from our present jobs and linking those into the community college system. Just one more quick question. Do you have any kind of an apprenticeship program right now?
We haven't set up a formal one, although we have had a few interns, basically. They were from the Oregon State Fermentation Science Program. And so I think it's something we'd like to expand and grow upon. So, and I should say too, I guess I want to add that with a lot of this expansion and kind of taking the next step for our company, that involves a lot more equipment that's a little bit more technical or advanced. And so it does provide opportunity for people who have transferable skills where they might not know about beer or brewing. Canning lines and bottling lines are electrical components and mechanical components, and pumps are pumps, so there has been a lot of transitional job skills that we've been able to utilize in the area.
Great, thank you.
And Commissioner, we have our first meeting post-COVID. President Chris Breitmeyer and myself and Peter Williams, who is our VP of Academics at the college, to what Dave's saying about we were planning to work with Oregon State University around right before COVID hit. And obviously here we are. but we're very excited about re-engaging with OSU, working with the college, working with craft breweries for these internship opportunities, and also tying it into our Class of Works paid internship program also, that we see as a big opportunity for workforce for now and for the future.
Yeah. The other issue is that I've spoken with some of the folks at OSU about they're increasingly looking into kind of the step increases in their education provision. And so we've talked a good deal about the issue of, you know, they have they have several tracks, educational tracks for brewing types of science. But at the same time, if we can hook that in to our community college level for the lower parts of that industry, I don't mean lower, I mean a little less technical. So I'd love to be a part of that conversation if you need a little bit more.
Absolutely, yes.
Just one thing here. So before I go to Commissioner Bangs, I know we're limited on time here. We'll move on to talk fish meal. But if everybody could mute your mics if you're not talking, it'll help a great deal. And Commissioner Bangs, I think you had one more question, so go ahead.
I had a question and a comment. First comment was, I can personally vouch for this food science program at Oregon State, and I'm actually really excited to hear about a potential partnership between Clatsop and Oregon State. I know the professors over there personally, and they are amazing. And so to be able to have some sort of working relationship with them in this process and also increase our educational value here in the county is amazing. So I'm excited to hear that. Secondly, of the 15 to 20 that you're projecting as a hire, how many of those jobs are going to be a living wage job, do you think?
Sure. Well, personally, for the company, they will all be, but also there is the salary requirement because we are going for the 5-year instead of the 3-year. And so, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, that was 130% of the Clatsop County.
That's correct, Dave. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So they all will be at that level.
Okay, so the 15 to 20 will be at that level. Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, David. Appreciate the presentation. Exciting stuff. I think we'll move on to talk fish meal in Wharton. So, Kevin?
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to introduce Tom Wortman from the Schooler Company, and Tom will take it from here. Welcome, Tom.
Tom, you're on mute.
Mute.
So, Tom, you're there? I can give the presentation, but I think I'd rather have Tom do it.
He's on. I think he's off now.
Oh,
Tom?
Tom? I can't see his screen as I'm looking at the condensed. Does it show that he's off mute?
Yeah, Tom, you're
He's
off
going
mute now.
on and off there. So there, you're off now. Still can't hear you though.
Both those departments that fought valiantly to try to protect those inside the Capitol. And had they not done that?
Yeah, we're having some audio problems. Sorry about that, Tom. David, if you want to go, or Kevin, excuse me, if you want to go ahead and go.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and proceed, and then if Tom, if he can get connected more, that's not a problem. So this is the fish meal plant, and also I know Will Isom's on the call as well, and from Port Astoria, as well as Mayor Balanceifer and others, and of course Melanie. So the Schooler Company fish meal plant. The partners in this are Borenstein and DeYang Seafoods. This is a history of the Schooler Company. It's a very large company, founded in 1892. And you see here the kind of the history, purchased in 1967. And their headquarters is in Omaha with over 1,000 employees, and their annual revenue is 4.5 billion and 79 facilities throughout the world.
All right, guys, can you hear me now?
Yes, good, thank you.
All right, sorry about that. I don't know what was going on. So Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, and I could you hear what I was saying already, Tom?
Yeah, okay, can we back up 2 slides if you don't mind, Kevin?
Let me. Yeah, this was not letting me do. Let me go back here. There, right there,
Yeah,
Tom.
let's go there. Yeah, let's hold it there, Kevin. All right. So
yeah, sure.
First of all, again, apologize for the if I had a dollar for every time that said you're on mute or I can't hear you, I could retire now during COVID. But first of all, thanks Kevin and team for helping us get ready for tonight. I'd like to also thank the extended community for the opportunity to talk about our project tonight. At Schooler and Bornstein and Diane, we've been working with this project with the Port of Astoria and the City of Warrenton for the last year. So we're happy to talk about our project with the City of Astoria and the county. So look forward to give you guys an update on that tonight. SDYB OpCo Partners is a legal entity. It's a joint venture of the Schooler Company, that's the S, Diane, that's the D and the Y, and the B, which is Bornstein Seafoods. So that's where SDYB comes from. Whenever we talk about a project at Schooler, we always like to talk about partners first. We're obviously new to the community, but obviously our partners, Bornstein and Diane, have a long and rich history in the community. So we're pleased to be partners with them in this project. Go to the next slide, Kevin, please. Allow me to give, thank you. Allow me to give a background on Schooler. So we're 129 years later, I think in 2 months. So we're founded in Omaha. We were purchased by the founder, Marshall Faith, modern day founder in 1967. Reason why that's important is because we're an employee-owned company. So we're not a New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or whatever you want to call that type of company. We're an employee-owned company. So I'm a shareholder, as with the 1,000 other employees worldwide. We're a $4.5 billion company. We're about 110 on Forbes Forbes largest privately held companies. And throughout the United States and the rest of the world, we have about 80 facilities worldwide. So we're looking forward for this to be facility 80. As I talked about earlier, we're heavily in the United States and in Asia. We have a lot of customers in Asia, and some of the products for this product will be in Asia. If you look in the map of the United States, we're heavy in the Midwest. That's our grain division. We have 3 main divisions: our grain division, our feed division, and our food division. And I'll go to the next slide. We'll talk about that in a second. But you'll notice that we're a heavy Midwest company, but we also have solid presence on parts of the East Coast and parts of the West Coast. Next slide, Kevin. Just to kind of give you a background of some of the industries that we are participating in. Aqua feed, so you think about like fish farms, shrimp farms. That's a major market for us, and that's actually going to be a major market for this ingredient that comes out of this factory. Flour mills, food processing, grain producers, specialty grains, livestock and feed. So we're a heavy during COVID. We've actually seen an uptick in businesses because we feed cows, we feed poultry, we feed pigs, in addition to feeding humans. So that's a big part of our business. And a significantly growing part of our business is pet food manufacturing. And again, the major ingredient for this product is going into pet food. Industrial ag producers and transportation would round out the 9 major industries that we sell into. Go ahead, Kevin. So why are we here? Why are we thinking of locating in by the airport? So the key thing for this product is that we need to be close to our suppliers. We're manufacturing an ingredient where we need to have fresh supply of fish. And so that's why you see we're basically just across the river from the port where Danyang and Bornstein processing are. So that's why we're located. Fresh ingredients is key to a successful and great product from this plant. So that's why we're located there. And this is by locating this facility where we're locating it, this actually will also provide a benefit to our partners, Danyang and Bornstein Seafood. Instead of having to truck this product away, this product will be shipped to the factory and processed there. You kind of went ahead a little there. If you go back one slide, Kevin, thank you. Go back one, Kevin, to the investment slide. No, the investment slide, Kevin. Okay, so capital investment for the project is $10 million. We're projecting a workforce of 10, including that is a plant manager, quality manager, finance manager, multiple skilled operators. And what we call a skilled operator is we're trying to run a lean facility here. So a skilled operator is someone that knows how to run the equipment, and if the equipment breaks, knows how to fix the equipment. So again, I think you'll see here a very skilled workforce that we're looking to employ here. Fish meal processing, and we can go into greater detail if the audience would like to, but basically we take the fish offal or remnants. So if you think about a fish fillet, you take the fillet and then you have everything that's left over. While some might see that as waste, that's actually money for this joint venture. And we take that, we process that, and we make that into a food ingredient. And that food ingredient primarily goes to the pet food market, as I said, but secondarily go into the aquaculture market. And last slide, Kevin. Okay, we're going to be hiring a local general contractor, Olyxo Construction out of Astoria. We're looking to hopefully start in March, April of this year, so in a couple months. It's about a year construction time period. Local construction payroll is going to be almost $2.3 million. Number of hours is 45,000 construction hours across the project, and those are going to be iron workers, electricians, plumbers, steam fitters, boiler makers, cement masons, mechanical technicians, and millwrights at an average construction wage of $50 an hour. The total labor impact of our project, just the construction project, labor, fringe, and burden overhead is about $4.2 million. So again, I apologize for the technical difficulty at the beginning of the conversation, but open to answer any questions that anyone would have about the investment, the project, fish meal processing in general.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Banks.
Yes, I'm really excited to see about the economic impact or boost that this project will bring us. But I have a question in regards, do you have a plan, a good neighbor plan in regards to odor control for this facility? I know fish meal processing and have even fed fish meal to my cows, and I know that, they are quite odoriferous. So I was just curious if you had a good neighbor plan.
So yeah, we take our neighbor policy very seriously. So there actually is a part of the project, and at a later point, I can actually show you a schematic of the design. We actually have biofilters, so all of the air, that processing air that you would be talking about, that goes through a biofilter scrubbing process, and so. Yes, we take it very seriously, and so we've invested, I would say, Maybe up to $1 million of that $10 million is for odor control.
Excellent. Thank you. That's good to hear.
Is that Commissioner Newton?
Yeah, I worry because just like with the PSCC board I sit with, when they started the jail, I had to ask them, are you sure you're going to be able to find the labor? Because when you're talking about building, you're going to have a school, a jail, buoy beer, all that going takes a lot of labor. And then you on top of that, are you sure you're going to be able to find the labor to build?
You mean from a construction standpoint?
Yes, I just know right here, right now, labor is pretty hard to find often because there's so much construction going on.
So we're actually right now in the process of having that $10 million estimate that I shared with you. That estimate came from our general contractor reaching out to all the subcons, so all the electrical, steel work, cement work, foundation work, all that's all been quoted by local subcontractors. So we feel pretty comfortable because they've all those subcontractors have been on the job. So yeah, we feel comfortable that we're going to be able to get that construction work done.
Okay, I just worry about you not being able to secure enough labor.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I understand completely, but yeah, we that's why we went out for bid.
Okay, thank you. And we've got 2 minutes. I'm going to turn it to Commissioner Thompson.
Quickly, sir. I wonder if there will be any public expenditure required for tide gates and levees given the location of the plant. Any public infrastructure costs associated with this?
I'm not aware of tide gate or any of that type of investment.
Commissioner Webb?
I'm not.
My question relates to solid waste and drainage management. These can turn into kind of pretty toxic effluent. Has the city of Warrenton where is this project in the land use approval process? Let me ask that question. Where is it in the Warrenton process?
Who would like to field that?
We have a land use approval.
I see Mayor.
What does that mean?
Let's turn over to Mayor Bounceyver. He's got his hand up there.
So Schooler came before the city commission. It's gone through the planning commission as well. So it's approved. All they got to do is pull the permits. The only thing that's holding back the permits from my understanding, and I just got briefed on this today, this isn't a normal industrial project. And what I mean by that is there is a large level of oversight from federal and state agencies related to this. The port has committed to the city of Warrenton in public meetings and in writing that they will improve their inflow and infiltration problem, which has been an issue for the airport effluent. So the city is going to get an improved, the port is improving its, and they're working on the engineering. I think the bids came out for like $385,000 or something like that. I'm sure the port can speak better to it than I can, but they're in the process of getting the improvements made for the sewer system there. And, we do have a sewer system in the city of Warrenton that is, reaching capacity, sort of like Astoria, but there's no reason why we can't accommodate what they have based on the restrictions we've already put in the conditions of use for their land use approval. That was a major consideration with stormwater and sewer, and it has been addressed in their conditions of approval.
Great,
Thank you. To add to that, that was part of the development agreement that the port, Schooler, and the city have signed.
And I'd note too for Commissioner Bangs' comment, unlike bioproducts, which hasn't really upgraded anything for decades, this facility had the smell issue, and city code both prohibits smell from new facilities, and also the federal FAA does not want smell because that would be so it's basically a sealed system.
So we're up against 6 o'clock here, and we have the regular meeting that's supposed to start at 6, but I've heard from Kevin that we do have some tax charts that we should look at that are accompanying this presentation. Can we do that really fast? I know Suzanne's here. Can we do that very quickly?
Teresa, do I close my screen or you're good to go?
I can go ahead and if I think you need to let me be the presenter.
Yeah, I did. I just sent it to you.
All right, got it. Hi, my name is Chris Leader. I'm the appraisal supervisor with Clatsop County Assessment and Taxation. And since Tom just started or just finished up speaking, I'll start with them. SDYB OPCO. Now there's 2 pages per company. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. There we go. Okay, so at the very top of this page is the land that was non-assessable, Port of Astoria land out at the airport. Now it's going to be taxable. So during the proration of the exemption, the 5-year exemption, Tom indicated they're shooting for being in service and in production by sometime in 2022. So the first year of the exemption will be 2023 and it'll run for 5 years. And so that land value, which is land and site improvement, will be taxable during the exemption because land and on-site development for land is not qualified property under the exemption. So that, let me switch over to, so here's the estimated assessed value of the land in this column here for each year. The estimated collectible taxes, and this is the cumulative taxes through the 5-year exemption. And let me scroll down here. So this section here, combined new buildings and machinery equipment, that's their investment. So you can see in year 2023, the 10 million. And it depreciate, that's the estimated assessed value. And so over the period of the exemption, that's just depreciation. So Tom estimated about 5 million in machinery and equipment, 5 million in the building and structures. Machinery and equipment depreciates a lot faster than building and structures, and so that's why it drops off quite quickly. This column here, again, this is the estimated exempt taxes per year, and this is the estimated cumulative exempt taxes throughout the exemption period. So they'll be looking at approximately 640,000 of taxes that'll be exempt during the exemption period. Let me scroll down here. This here, this last section here, this is after the exemption ends and all property goes taxable. I'm estimated about 8.5 million of assessed value and an estimated collectible taxes in 2028, 117,000. Does anybody have any questions about this page before I move to the next? Okay, move on. The next page here, so this is for the taxable portion, the land, and how it's spread apart, spread over the taxing districts that receive the taxes. This is just for that first year, and annual, it's the same for every year. And you can see how it's dispersed to the different taxing districts. This column over here is cumulative for the whole exemption. So this is money that will be distributed to taxing districts during the exemption. And I'll scroll down. So this is the exempt portion, the new property, the investment. And again, it's the same format. This is the first year and how it spreads over. This is money that the taxing districts would have received if it was not exempt. And this column here is the total cumulative. But again, going back to the first page, after the exemption is done, this is what would be going on the roll as taxable for their investment in the community. Does anybody have any questions about Schooler and Partners, the information there?
Okay, I'll go ahead and move on to Bowie. Same format, it's 2 pages. I'll zoom in again. So Bowie's a little bit different. They've been here, and this section right here, this is what they paid for the last certified tax roll. It's this was the total assessed value, 4.8 million. That covers multiple account IDs. There's land, buildings, structures, machinery and equipment, personal property. And they paid just a little over 90,000 in taxes. That's their tax due for the 2020 certified tax roll. And scrolling down here, it fit both in one stop there. So again, here is what will be taxable during the exemption period. David indicated they'd be in service by 2021. So the first year of the exemption will be 2022, run for 5 years. And this will be the remaining assessed value that's taxable during that time frame. The taxes during those years and the cumulative taxes that they will still pay while they're in the exemption period. Similar to Fort George, they had a certain amount of taxes they were still going to be paying during the exemption period. This here, this is for the new investment, about 8 million to start off with, as David indicated. There's a larger portion in their investment that's machinery and equipment versus renovation of the existing buildings. So there's depreciation going on for the assessed value. And again, the estimated exempt taxes each year in the exemption period. And this is the approximate cumulative taxes they would be exempt from during the period. Anybody have questions on that portion before I move to page 2? Oh, there's the last section here. It's when they come out of the exemption in year 2027. The estimated assessed value would be almost 12 million and estimated collectible taxes 232,000. So back in 2020, it was 4.8 assessed value, 90,000 taxes. At the end of the exemption, almost 12 million assessed value and a little over 200,000 in taxes. And the second page is the same as with Schooler and Partners. Where you have how it's dispersed over the taxing districts. This is this portion that's taxable still throughout the exemption. This will be the first year. Let me turn on my little red fuzzy dot here. It's easier to see. And cumulative tax for the period of the exemption that they will still pay. And this is the portion and the taxing district's distribution for the exempt property during the exemption period. Annual and cumulative throughout the entire exemption program. So that's that information. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Well, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate the presentation. This is well explained. And this is just the beginning of the discussion, so this will continue. This was for informational purposes only, and the process will move forward. But we are over our time, so I really appreciate everybody's participation in being here for the work session tonight. We'll go ahead and transition out of the work session at this time and start with the regular meeting. But thank you all for being in attendance.
Thank you very much.
2-minute break, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Kevin.
You need a break for a minute? I'll give you, we want to reconvene at 6:15? That sound good? Okay. We'll go ahead and start the regular meeting at 6:15. Thank you, everybody. Looks like we got everybody back. My apologies again for running overtime in our work session. It was a good discussion. I think we had a lot of interest in that, obviously. So we will go ahead and call the regular meeting to order. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. Can I have the roll call?
Commissioner Bangs,
Here.
Commissioner Toyoka,
Here.
Commissioner Webb,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Here.
Chair Aquila.
Here. We've had an opportunity to review the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Thompson moves to approve the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify with an eye.
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to business from the public. Individuals wishing to provide oral communication at the designated time must register in advance by calling 503-325-1000 or email commissioners@co.clatsop.or.us by 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Is anybody registered to speak?
Yes, I have 2 people who've registered to speak.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was muting somebody. Carrie Grassi, please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Carrie Grassi.
Yeah, Carrie, can you name and address for the record? And if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Actually, I think that Marty was going to include my comment as well in his. So is it okay if I pass it on to him?
Okay.
Sure. That was the other person who registered to speak, Martin Letourneau?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Carrie. Hey, Martin.
Hi, my name is Martin Letourneau, and I live at 320 Avenue K in Seaside. And I represent a group of Clatsop County residents who would like to encourage the commissioners to pursue a CAHOOTS type program for Clatsop County for crisis interventions. For those that don't know, CAHOOTS stands for Crisis Assistance Helping Out on the Streets. And it's a program that's been in operation in Eugene, Oregon for over 30 years. And I would like the Clatsop County Commissioners to report back to us, the public, on a regular basis on what they're doing to promote this. As I mentioned, CAHOOTS is a program in Eugene. It's got over a 31-year history of success and has garnered much critical acclaim, saving money for their police and fire departments, and most importantly, providing critical services to people that are typically unhoused or have alcohol and substance abuse conditions, and those suffering from persistent mental illness. It's currently being successfully replicated in a number of communities across the country, and there's a growing interest in it. Dispute resolution and de-escalation, non-emergency medical care, and transportation to services are also part of the program that CAHOOTS provides. It's obvious to anyone in Clatsop County that we have issues with homelessness and drug and alcohol addictions and with mental health concerns. A large portion of the calls that the police department responds to in Seaside are related to those issues. I think it's similar in Astoria and Warrenton and Gearhart and Cannon Beach, Napa, and even other communities. The Gearhart police chief has even publicly said recently that they are not equipped to respond to these calls, and effectively he doesn't want to respond to these calls anymore. And these issues are not going away. The CAHOOTS model is actually a logical evolution of our emergency response systems, and it represents the growth and the transformation of our emergency response systems to better serve the needs of our residents. It will conserve our police and fire department resources, allowing them to provide better response to issues that require their particular skills. It will also help ensure that people properly trained to handle these issues are the first responders to such incidents. So I encourage you to take an active and aggressive role in trying to help us make this happen in Clatsop County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Letourneau. Appreciate that. We have
And
any
that's-
other, that's it?
Nope, that's all the public speaking.
Okay. We'll move on to the consent calendar. We've got 2 items on the consent calendar, the fund exchange agreement with ODOT, page 5, and the 4-H and extension lease contract on page 26.
Mr. Chair, move adoption of the consent calendar. Thompson.
A second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Commissioner liaison reports. We'll start with Commissioner Toyoka.
Good evening, everyone. As I said, it was a busy week with the meetings with the Human Services Advisory Council, Public Safety Coordinating Council, and as well as a meeting with Public Works Facility Needs Assessment. Again, with the Human Services Advisories, want to can't stress enough what's happening on during the COVID period. There's a lot of distress in the community, and it is being addressed, but I think we still have some more work to do. But they had a good plan moving forward. The Public Work Facility is a large scope program. It's multifaceted, and it's very intriguing to see how many different moving parts there are to that. With Commissioner Webb, I think it's going to be an interesting process, but one that I think that if we start breaking down all the components, our county would be much better off investigating each individual one and making sure we've maximized opportunities to serve the county in every way.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Commissioner Banks.
Yes, good evening. It's been a busy 7 days. I've visited with our fair board here recently at the most recent meeting, and it was nice to see some old faces and to meet and greet and just kind of get my feet on the ground in regards to my new committees. I still have a few phone calls to make to introduce myself, but other than that, just as we noted previously, there have been a lot of emails in regards to the rentals, the short-term rentals, and so I'm very interested to continue pursuing discussions on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going to the Public Safety Policy Committee at the Association of Oregon Counties, there was this chilling statement that Oregon ranks number 3 in the country in terms of mental health problems, number 47 in the country in terms of mental health spending. I think a reasonable person could assume there's some correlation between those 2 pieces of data. So when I looked at our agenda and saw that we're looking at our legislative priorities and how do we have effective partnerships as well as provide services on our own, I am heartened and hopeful to see that we will, as a board, focus ourselves on the areas where we have great need. I appreciate input from the listening community on the area of, Lord, how do we take care of each other in this time? Because more and more in all domains, I see that that's the question. We're in this pandemic now nearly a year. It's wearing us out. Everybody is wearing thin. People are dropping like flies. I mean, the list of people I know and care about who are no longer with us is staggering every single day. When we see community issues like the short-term rentals what it eventually boils down to in my mind is how do we as a county board of commissioners treat each other in such a way that we inspire being good neighbors all over the county along every program dimension. I feel blessed to have every one of the commissioners on board, the county manager, all of the staff that we have. You know, this is something that it will take all of us being people of goodwill to solve. So that, I think that was kind of like a sermonette instead of a report, but there you go. Thank you.
Amen. Commissioner Webb.
One can never have too many sermons in one's life. Thank you. I think that I really don't have anything, except maybe I have a question that maybe Teresa or somebody could answer. Have the various committees that we do our liaison assignments with, were they notified of the change and the contact information for new members? Is there ever a?
Yes, I emailed all of the committees with each of your email addresses and contact information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Thank you, Teresa. I don't have any comments other than what I had presented at the work session. So we'll go ahead and move to the county manager's report.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you, Chair Cuela. Just real quickly, I just wanted to let you know that our Public Works Department is getting prepared for what might be a wintry event over the next few days. And so they will be working double shifts and anticipating working through the weekend. So just wanted you to know that they will be prepared and will be out there this week. The other is, I just wanted to make a note that on Friday, we will be leaving the extreme risk category and going to the high risk category, which will alleviate some pressure off of our businesses. So, you know, we'll be hopeful that after the next 2 weeks, we either stay at that high risk level or even hopefully go down to the next lower risk level. And as part of me saying that, I want to thank the public health staff for doing such an amazing job over a year period, as other board members have also mentioned, and for the partnerships that we have with our community or organizations. So it truly takes all of us to get through this. And I just think it says a lot about the Clatsop County community that we've risen to the occasion. I did want to also mention that on February 16th, we'll be having another board work session, and just wanted to make sure that the board, since this is a new work session, it is at 10 o'clock in the morning on February 16th. And then finally, I will be out of the office on Friday. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Friday update will come out Thursday, hopefully. But I'm just going to take advantage of a 4-day weekend and rest up for what will be another busy week next week. So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Yes, well deserved. Thank you, County Manager. If we don't have anything else, we'll move on to the business agenda. Did we have a county health update added to the agenda, Don?
Mike is not available right now, Chair Cuela, and so
yeah, I understood. I didn't know whether he, I know we were
he was going to try to come on early. He was going to try to come on earlier, but it just got away, and so.
Okay, understood. Well, then we'll move on to the legislative agenda guide for 2021, which is on page 38.
Thank you, Commissioner. So as you all are acutely aware, we are in the 2021 legislative session and there is a lot going on. We've had PAC West come before you at the last work session and provide you with an update on some of the things that they're working on for you. And they'll continue to come during work sessions and provide you with a similar update as we meet each week. We have sent off to them in the past when we brought them on a 2020 legislative guide that the board adopted at the time. And now for the 2021 session, we've just made a few adjustments to that guide. A lot of our goals are similar. And then there have been a few additions. And so this legislative guide is reflective of things that we've been watching as staff, as well as things that the board has made us aware of. We have been, based on this information through this guide that was previously adopted, we have been providing feedback to the legislative lobbyists for the bills that currently have come out. And so we're just asking that the board now adopt a 2020 guide to continue to help provide PAC West with that clear and direct information as to the direction that the board would like to see them focus.
Commissioner Thompson, you had a question?
I did. I just had one comment. I mean, this is a lovely document. It just warmed the cockles of my heart. But on page 44, which is economic development and workforce development, item number 2, if we could say support investments to develop either the mass timber technology or include mass plywood panels, MPP, then that would, I think that would be a stronger document.
Commissioner, can you repeat? I got the mass timber technology, or what was the other part that you had said?
MPP for mass plywood panels. Okay. Because there's some exciting developments there in modular housing using 2-inch mass plywood panels that are tied in with affordable housing and emergency housing.
Okay.
Thank you for catering to me.
Commissioner Toyoka.
Just had a question. Reading through the document, I didn't see anything about education. Does that go from governor straight to school district, or does the county have any involvement? Just to my reading, I was thinking we should have some standardization. We have between the different school districts here. One's open, one's closed, but they all have different criteria. Should we not be on a standardized criteria within Clatsop County for our school districts, and how could going back to the legislative session as far as more guidance from Salem in terms of that educational piece? Question. I didn't know if that ties in or not.
Commissioner Toyoka, I'll try to tackle that one, if that's okay, Monica. So historically, I think that education has not been one of the central components of a county's legislative agenda. It falls into one of those categories that is more advocacy, where we oftentimes advocate with the school districts on legislation which would benefit at the local level. But the way that the schools are structured, it really is a relationship that goes from the state to the school district. And so I think that though it's not on the county's legislative guide, I think that if there are things that the county can use its voice to benefit the school districts, that's certainly something that the board can still do.
I just see that some of the information that the school districts are having would benefit from some of the county data, from mental health statistics to environmental statistics. There's a lot of things that they don't see that with those resources, I think could help them make better decisions or different decisions on their path.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. And Commissioner Webb, you had your hand up.
I do. this is an issue that I'm so glad you brought this up, Commissioner Toyoko, because I have been no, let me start that over again. I have learned actually through my liaison responsibilities with the Public Health Department that they are probably our best liaison to the school districts. I don't know whether this is true in other places in Oregon, but I know that Mike McNichol has very close relationships with our school districts. And I actually, in my 2 years on the board, I have always struggled with what my advocacy role should be. I have like most of us. I think each of us probably has one of the school districts in our areas, right? That's probably because you have both Jewel and Seaside, right? Okay. So that's something I'd love to have us have a conversation about. I mean, I check in with Craig Hoppus once in a while, and but I'd love us to have some kind of a mandate agreement among us, or or something like that. But I have learned, as I say, that public health really, Mike has and his several members of his staff have a pretty good insights into issues in the school, and he really works very closely with them on a lot of things, and I know he has during the pandemic as well. So I think there's good information going out to them from our health department. But as I say, I'm always wondering about whether there are other things that the county needs to be kind of focusing on. So that's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
Yeah. Can I continue with another issue?
Yes.
I was a little disappointed that there weren't that there wasn't an environmental section to this. There is especially there's no mention, for instance, of the HCP or any of the things that ODF is constantly grappling with, and issues related to the Forest Management Practices Act. And we probably need, with a new board, we might need to have a conversation about what this means for us. There are a couple of I think, very exciting issues coming before the legislature, especially about reverting back to the tax structures that the timber industry participated in prior to some of the more recent legislation. And I wonder, maybe, County Manager, would it be possible for us to have, I don't know, a discussion about that, or a kind of a work session item or something? And maybe a little bit of a briefing from our lobbyist about what kind of action's going on.
Well, I think, Commissioner Webb, I think that certainly we can have the lobbyists give us an update on what's going on down in Salem regarding some of the bills that are being considered. There is a brief environmental section on page 43 of the packet, but it really deals with the things that we've been talking about through the strategic planning process and others. And there are always going to be things that also come up outside that the county is going to have to be nimble on, and have some of those work sessions and some of those conversations and some of those study sessions as we learn more. So this document isn't really intended to be inclusive, because we can never estimate what may come out. But it's just mostly to be a guide for those down there on the 90% issues. And there's always those 10% issues that we're going to have to be nimble on. So I think that we can touch base with our lobbyists and make sure that we have more information and a discussion about those items, as you mentioned.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, are you ready for a motion?
Yeah, do we have any other comments, questions, or discussion? If not, let's go ahead and have a motion.
I move the board adopt the 2021 legislative agenda guide.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the 2021 legislative agenda guide. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Well done, staff.
Yes, absolutely. Well done. This is such a big step for us to have a lobbyist and to be able to have these communications going on with them and carrying that forward in Salem. So big things. We'll move on to item 5, which is the jail relocation project. Guaranteed maximum price contract amendment number 3, and this is on page 45 of our packet. And is David?
I see David on here. David, are you also one of the callers that has called in? Because I see you don't have a microphone.
David, are you on the
Can you
line?
hear me now?
There we are. Yep.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, welcome, commissioners. This is the request to approve the GMP and amendment number 3 for the jail. Last week, the sheriff went through a lot of this information in the work session. And for people that weren't there, this project, began prior to 2018. And 2018, the bond was approved, and we went through the design process. We hired a contractor to work as our construction management contractor. We approved a contract with the contractor to do pre-construction services, and we also approved a couple of early work amendments. And those 2 amendments plus this amendment number 3 will be the guaranteed maximum price. So the guaranteed maximum price is, includes some, things that we expect, contingencies and some cost for the contractor's fees and some other costs. So the total is about $23,749,000. And if anybody has any questions, I can try to answer them.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. Staff has done such an excellent job presenting that my questions are clear now. As I'm looking at page 52 of our agenda, you've given us a rebid and line items. And there were 3 items about which I had questions. And cumulatively, they're almost $500,000. So DIV 10, thank you, Dave. DIV 10 specialties, DIV 32 exterior improvements, and then below that with no DIV unspecified. If you could help me understand, everything else kind of makes sense to me, but if you could help me understand what those DIV 10, 32, and then unspecified referred to, I'd appreciate that.
So number 10 is specialties. So that's items that are obviously specialties, but they include like a wide range of things from like grab handles, like in a restroom, to things that are kitchen hoods or just special items that are part of the project. And this one has a lot of them because it's a jail, and those what those are. And then what was the next one?
DIV 32 exterior improvements.
Oh yeah, exterior improvements is to mostly renovate the existing building, to fix the windows, to fix the stucco that's bad out there, and to upgrade that building. And the unspecified, I don't actually know what's in that one. I tried to look it up before the meeting because I figured somebody would ask me on it, but I wasn't able to figure it out either. But I think it's just things that didn't fit into the other categories. Because these categories are divisions in architectural specification, and so I'm sure that's one that the contractor just didn't have a place for.
So it's miscellaneous. I understand that.
It's like a miscellaneous one, yes.
Sure. Okay. Well, then thank you for that. On page 54,
Okay.
again, you were so clear on the clarifications and assumptions that it raised some questions in my mind. Items 1 and 2, the contractor fee has been reduced from 3.6 to 2.75. And then item 2, we're going to waive retention of those direct purchase orders. I wondered if there were any relationship between items 1 and 2. Is that the trade-off? Is that why they reduced their
Well,
fee, because we were reducing paperwork demands?
item 1 was a request from the sheriff that the contractor, the construction management company, and the architect kind of pitch in on some of the cost overruns. So they all reduced their cost a little bit. And so that's the
So,
architect fee actually went down a little bit. And then
Okay.
on item number 2, when a contract goes on like this, normally we withhold 5% of that money until the very end of the project. So this is a way to you know, to not have that withheld from that subcontractor. You know, it's a significant amount of money, and you know, basically they just have to not get that money till the end. And so what we've done on that one is to pay them the full amount when they do the work instead of holding 5% till the end.
Okay, so some give and take in that. I appreciate that. So item
Yeah.
number 4, the roller window shades. Do we have an idea how much that's going to cost?
I don't think it's going to be very much, you know, maybe a couple $1,000s. It's only in the administrative area in the front. You know, we're not putting shades on the windows for the inmates or anything.
Okay,
So it's probably, you know, half dozen windows or something.
okay. Acoustical spray will not be painted or coated. I didn't know if that have an impact on ongoing maintenance costs.
It shouldn't. That acoustical spray is used in the inmate areas, and it's like a spray. It looks like sprayed on spaghetti that gets hard, and it absorbs sound. But it's, you know, you have an option of painting it, you know, beige or tan or whatever color you want, but we're just going to leave it white. And so that saves a little bit of money on having a painter come back in and paint it because it's already a finished surface.
Okay. All right, then item 8, we're not going to polish the concrete floors. They're just going to be sealed. I wondered if that would have any impact on maintenance or on, are there any negative consequences of not having a polished floor that you know of? I couldn't figure any, but I wanted
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
You know, when you polish a concrete floor, it just makes it look, you know, in my terms, fancier, you know, because it exposes kind of the rocks and it looks like, you know, a ground with exposed aggregate or something. It'll be
Yeah.
perfectly fine for a jail.
Okay, so it may not be as aesthetically pleasing, but it's functional and no extra
Yes.
cost. Okay. And we're going to have that good sidewalk, which is a good idea. On item 11, the double configuration metal panel is going to be replaced by 3/16-inch steel plate. I mean, it's kind of a picture of what? Why? How much money does that make, and what purpose does it serve? I was just curious why it made the
Well,
list.
those double panels, how the jail cells are made is that they come from a factory and they have, it's like 2 steel panels like an inch apart. And then you fill them with grout on the site. And instead of doing that upstairs in the mezzanine to separate some of the areas, instead of doing that double plate, we're going to just do a single 3/16 steel plate. And it saves some money on the cost from having that had to be made at the factory, and also saves some weight so that there's not as much weight going down to the foundation. So we save a little bit, you know, all the way down through the structure.
But I wonder if it would have a negative impact on the noise level at the jail, because
No,
that's one
it
of the
wouldn't.
things. It would. Okay. All right.
There would still be steel plate exposed. It's just going to be 1 instead of 2, you know.
Okay. If there's a way we can be more humane about the level of noise in people who are in the jail, I think it's good for mental health.
It is. And we actually, as part of the architectural work, there's an acoustical consultant that's why we ended up with like that acoustical spray on material, is because we're trying to get the noise level down, because it keeps, you know, it's just better, you know, it's like being in a hotel with a bunch of kids down the hill. Just trying to quiet it down in there so that it's just less stressful for staff
Yeah,
and the inmates.
well, it's good for everybody. Yeah. And so item number 13, contractor fee shall be added scope and unforeseen condition change orders, 3.6%. I mean, there's really no way to estimate that I could think of, unless you can help me see one.
I think what that is that if we have change orders, it's going to be the standard 3.6% that the contractor's fee is, which was their original fee. So we actually, if we come and say we want you to do something else, they're going to get their full fee instead of that reduced 2.75% fee.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate the work that you and the assistant county manager and the sheriff and everybody connected with this has done. As I said, you did such a great job that you made it easy to ask you more questions. I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Welcome.
Commissioner Toyoka, you had your hand up there.
Yes, just hopefully one simple question is when you and the sheriff are talking about the work you did with the contractor, reducing their fees and making, having them partner in on this. There was a discussion about value engineering. Now, is that part of an amendment, or is that just achieved through, construction meetings and you can you achieve that value?
The value engineering process just was between the whole team, between the county team, the architect, the contractor, and the construction manager, where they went through, item by item and say, like, can we live without polished floors? Is that okay? And
I guess my question is more like during the construction process itself, that continued value engineering as you're building, is that going to be through amendment or through like just your weekly construction meetings, or how does that achieved?
If we had a change in the contract, we would do it through an amendment. So if they come up with a way to save some money somewhere along the line, it would just be done through an amendment, and it would just, that money kind of flows in and out of the contingency line item. Mm-hmm. So if we had a little bit of savings, the contingency would go up a little bit, or if we have some costs that go up, if we want something extra, the contingency item would go down a little bit.
David, if I could just also add to that in regards to the GMP, the amendments that would be coming forward would only be if we're asking them to change the scope of work. So if during work, the work that's already been agreed upon and something has a more expensive cost associated with it, they won't be able to charge us more for that.
Commissioner Toyoka, did you have anything further?
No, I just wanted to know their mechanism, because like I know during the building process, if you're meeting and you say, okay, hey, there's 2 walls we can straighten out and we can save, 17% on this line item, then you can do that during the process. We had it contractually in our amendment. I didn't know if the county had that contractually or if it was just implied through construction meeting.
Mr. Webb,
you have a question?
Yeah, I have a related question that this report was, I thought, really thorough. But part of the things that I am often asked about the new jail are whether, and I think there's some skepticism in the community about the fact that we're basically using the roots of an old building. And so people are saying, well, why are we doing that? Why aren't we all, just building from scratch? And shouldn't we be building the most modern ideas in jails? And I haven't been able to answer that question at all. And, one of them, for instance, was the acoustical issues. And I think it would be, I would love to have someone, maybe David, you're the person because you're on this, but to talk about some of the things that we're doing in the new jail that are kind of innovative or sensitive to new ideas in in incarceration. You know, there's such a huge public discussion right now about jails and about restitution, et cetera, et cetera. I had one person say to me, actually an architect friend of mine, who looked at that wonderful graphic that's up on the 4th floor, and said, you know, there don't seem to be, in this jail, there don't seem to be a lot of classrooms and designated recreation areas and things like that. Well, I don't know anything about jail design. So is there a way, David, that you could kind of help us out with letting us know what the things that have happened that are positive, that are helping our citizens understand why they passed this bond measure, and especially with the fact that the coronavirus has, of course, limited our census tremendously in the last year. Does anybody understand the question I'm asking?
Commissioner Webb, if I could respond. Those are all really good questions. And what I would suggest is that we team David and the sheriff and even maybe one of the architects who can really, express all the work that they've done and what they've done to actually incorporate a lot of the emerging thought about incarceration into this facility. Because I think what was on everybody's mind wasn't just the expansion of beds, but it was to create a facility that can be more sensitive to the needs of the inmates and to be more humane, generally speaking. And so what I would suggest is that we can schedule a work session and have that conversation to where we can describe what those elements are, because you will see them in the new jail. So
Good, thank you. That would really be a great help, I think. Thanks so much.
Any other question from the commission? There's a recommended motion here that we authorize the county manager to complete amendment number 3. Anybody want to make that motion?
Commissioner Teoka? Yeah, Commissioner Webb, somebody?
I will. Just trying to get to my appropriate page.
Page 47, yep.
I'm trying to scroll back.
Just looking for the public safety liaison to have that role. It's the longest motion of the night. It's a 4-line motion.
I move to the board authorize the county manager to complete amendment number 3 in the amount of $21,937,000 and to accept the GMP in the amount of $23,749,000 with Emmerich Construction Company to provide construction of the jail project and to authorize the county manager to sign the change orders up to the authorized contingency amount included in the GMP.
Second.
I second that motion.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Well
Thank you,
done.
everybody.
Big lift. Yeah, big lift.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other items on the agenda this evening? Anything for the good of the order? All right, and we don't have an executive session, I'm assuming? Okay, we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care.